Pulp MX Network production.
EVS Sports brings you a cheeky Brit and an American YouTube racing sensation weekly on the LVK More Than Moto podcast. Here's your hosts, Lewis Phillips and Kellen Brauer.
Yeah, welcome everybody into episode 2 of LVK More Than Moto. I am Kellen Brauer from RacerX. He is Lewis Phillips from Vital MX, and we are here to debate and discuss things from San Francisco, round 2 of Monster Energy AMA Supercross, and more. That's why it is More Than Moto. But first of all, Lewis, San Francisco over the weekend, it was wet. I feel like wet on Sunday night. I was like thawing out my jackets and stuff, but you were not, apparently.
Well, let me tell you, Kellen, as a Brit, those conditions were tinted lens worthy and one tear off.
One tear off.
One tear off.
Yeah. Other guys were like having double goggles, tear offs on top of that, pulling them in the first corner.
No, that's an American reaction to that weather.
It is a very American reaction. We don't ride the mud a lot, you know?
In England, we would consider that t-shirt and short weather. We'd be watering the track between motos, scared of dust.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that the California kids did as well as they did this weekend. Like Ryder D from Bakersfield, Joshua Vreese is from California and gets in the top 10 because literally tracks out here close when it rains.
I mean, this could be a debate, but I'll sum it up very quickly.
Okay.
We all need to stop with the so-and-so is good in the mud because realistically, whoever gets the whole shot is probably going to win. Like, we overplay that so much.
I guess, but Kenny was like almost dead last out of the first corner when his bike stalled and then got all the way to third by like the fourth lap. So Kenny's a good mud rider. Like that plays into it.
Oh, it's raining. Plessinger's going to win. Please tell me when Plessinger last won a Supercross mud race.
Well, he's never won a Supercross. So I mean, but he did win like Seattle 2018, which is a total mudder on the 250.
He was in San Diego 2019.
Look, man, I'm just saying there are people that are better at mud than others.
Okay.
That's the point that most people are trying to get across. Yeah, so before we really get too deep into this second episode, Lewis, reaction to the first episode, I feel like was a little heavy-handed on you, unfortunately.
The floor is yours. Feel free to thank me.
Oh, I would like to thank you because I feel like episode 1 was a success in terms of fan feedback. We had a lot of people excited about it.
To give you a successful podcast, I jumped in front of a bus for you.
Yes, you did.
And you're welcome for that.
I appreciate that. But you continue to just jump back in front of this bus again. Everyone keeps bringing up that you are ridiculous for this take on your brother, which we'll get into later.
And he's in studio.
You just keep doubling down on Twitter anyway. So what do you mean by you're just jumping in front of the bus repeatedly at this point?
That's how much I care about you.
Okay.
Well, I would jump in front of a bus multiple times.
Greatly appreciated. But yes, this is LVK More Than Moto, and the point of this podcast really is that we're trying to go a little bit behind the scenes. We do like really funny press box talk kind of things on Saturday, and we have these great discussions that no one will probably ever hear. So you and I feel like we are trying to bring to life some of those funny discussions that we have, and it's not all just race review, hard-hitting facts. It's more beyond that a little bit.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Steve Weege and JT do a ridiculously good race review. I do one on Vital MX with Michael Lindsay. The Pulp Show does a fair amount of race discussion. We will also do a fair amount of race discussion, but this is called More Than Moto for a reason. We could just sit here and talk about the race for an hour again, and that would be lazy of us. As media, us and everyone else needs to start thinking outside the box, and by merging some race discussion with some life discussion, it's a different product.
Yeah.
And different is better because we all do a lot and otherwise we're just going around in circles and circles and circles, and I'm tired of doing that.
Yes, indeed. We'll get into some topics today. We have 6 of them lined up that we're going to go through. We're also going to rehash some stuff from last week because we have a special guest calling in.
Celebrity guest
from
NBC Sports.
Perhaps, but he has some thoughts on some topics that we discussed last week, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Before we do, want to give a big thank you, of course, to EVS Sports. They are the main sponsor on this podcast, and over the past 39 years, EVS Sports has established themselves as a leader in innovation and technology when it comes to designing protection gear for today's motocross riders. Athletes like RJ Hampshire, Kyle Chisholm, Freddie Noren, Axel Hodges, and Travis Pastrana all wear EVS when they race, ride, or whatever Travis decides to do that day. Check out evs-sports.com to gear up like the pros and use code LVK30 to save on anything from knee protection to shoulder braces. Also want to give a shout out to Namura for presenting this podcast, the leading provider of engine components for motocross, ATV, UTV, and personal watercraft for over 2 decades. Namura has been the preferred choice for premium and dependable engine components for more than 20 years. Whether you're restoring your vintage bike, rebuilding your four-wheeler, or upgrading your new 450 race motor, Namura has you covered. Our extensive line of cast and forged pistons, connecting rods, gasket kits, engine valves, and soon cylinder kits that enhance your engine's performance. Keep an eye out for our new and innovative products in 2024 and beyond. Stay up to date by following us on Instagram at Namura_technologies. And a new sponsor this week, big shout out to Racetech Suspension. For 40 years, Racetech has been supplying the motorcycle industry with high-quality suspension components made right here in the USA. From modern to vintage, Racetech is your go-to source for suspension performance, and they're also a part of a new feature that we have later on in this podcast. So let's get into it, Lewis. We have our topics lined up for today. This one, I wanted to kind of lead into it a little bit with this week. I need to get my phone out and actually have a timer ready to go. I forgot that this is part of our podcast that we actually have this. But the topic that I want to get into today, Lewis, is mutters. I feel like on Twitter this week, we had a lot of people reacting kind of negatively to the fact that we had a mutter so early in the season. Or just a mutter at all, like people saying, like, why are we going to West Coast rounds? Every time we go to Oakland or the Bay Area, we seem to have a mutter. It always rains up here. Seattle always turns into a mutter, and we do it in an outdoor stadium. I like the concept of having a mutter like a season, like one mutter a season to kind of shake things up. And I also like that we did it early in the season, so it's not like we get 4 rounds from the end and we have a championship fight that gets kind of like maybe ruined by a mutter. But what say you about mutters this past weekend in San Francisco?
I like mutters, but what I don't like is halfway mutters where it's rained a little bit, the track is like an ice rink, and people are tiptoeing around doubling because that's boring.
Yeah.
I like mutters where bikes are getting stuck, riders are drowning, smoke machines are going off in the middle of the track. If it's going to rain, we may as well just have the full shebang.
Yeah.
Which is what we got in San Francisco. So I was quite happy. Middle of the season, end of season, beginning of the season, it all counts towards the same thing. Who cares? Of course, we've got to go racing. What makes me laugh, not to get on a high horse so early,
Okay.
but what makes me laugh is all of this talk about the sport's gone soft, blah, blah, blah. That's all you get on Twitter. It rains, and now racing in the rain is wrong.
Yeah.
So apparently we should be more soft.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, I mean, I feel like people were literally adamant that this is a bad look for our sport. From the reactions that I saw, like people were upset that we were having a race in the rain.
Well,
and I'm like, I don't know. This is our sport. What do you mean?
I watched the replay of San Francisco, and I wondered that myself. Like, if you were flicking channels and you come across this, riders going very slowly, I was like, I wonder what you'd think. But I think that if I was in that situation, I would stop and watch because it would look so chaotic and ridiculous that I'd be like, what's going on here? The argument to that is maybe they stop and go, I don't understand why that looks hard. Why aren't they going faster?
Yeah.
Which I would imagine some people would do, because to them, they would look at it and it would just look like a track, essentially.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the negative to it. But I don't see it being a bad thing. It spices things up. At the end of the day, it's not like the results from San Francisco were that much of an outlier. Mm-hmm. It was fairly normal, with the exception of, say, McElrath. And really, that was it. Like, okay, Jet probably isn't finishing 9th at any other Supercross, but he could finish 7th this weekend. So that's not that different. Like, everyone just calm down.
Yeah, the reason why I like it early, and I said this to Steve at one point, I think he talked about it in the review show. I like it early in the season because I like this trend of, like, we don't really know what's going to happen to keep going as long as we can in the season. Like, there is going to be a point where we're at round 8, 9, 10, where it's like every time we go to the gate, we know that XYZ riders are going to probably win. Like last year, it was Eli and Chase and Cooper. At a certain point, it was like, we're going to the gate. Those are your title guys. They are battling for the championship, so it's most likely they're going to win. Kenny sneaks in a win. Barsha sneaks in a win. And we're all like, yay. But we kind of know that at some level, those are the top guys in the series late in the championship. So right now, it's still unknown. Is Jet going to be this good late in the stretch? Is Tomac going to get back to form? Is Chase Sexton on the new KTM going to be elite all season long? I want that to go on as long as we can, where we have as many different faces in the mix. And I feel like the mud gave us that opportunity early in the season. Yes, Chase wins. We know Chase is probably going to win races, but Jet has a bad night and the points are shuffled again.
Yes, I would have liked, if we're going to have this full Mutter experience, as I said, I would like it if we could have a really crazy winner. For instance, Prado, the door was open for him to win one. That would have been cool, because that would have never happened normally, so it would have been crazy. Right. Look where we are. Like 2019, it wasn't a Mutter, but the first couple of rounds we had Barsha, Baggett, and Webb, which at that point was a surprise.
Right, yeah.
And it was like, what is going on? This is such a weird start to the season. Mm-hmm. So I would have liked some of that, because at the end of the day, Jet and Chase were the most likely winners that we were going to have in 2024. But not going to complain, because I'm being nice. And last week everyone shouted at me for complaining, so I'm happy.
Well, to your point about like an off the wall winner, at one point during the heat race when Plessinger was leading his heat race, and I know Freitas eventually caught him and won the heat, but Plessinger still looked really good, and then in the main event got a terrible start, so we never really got to see it. And then I think he said he got some goggle problems or something wasn't right with him early in the main. But I thought to myself, holy smokes, if Aaron Plessinger wins tonight, he'd probably have the points lead. He was fourth at the opener. If he wins the second round, it's his first Supercross win, and then he has the red plate and all this like Eli and Chase and Jet and Cooper and all these names that we've been saying, and AP has the points lead after 2 rounds. Like, how rad would that be for the series? Like, that's why I was excited for the prospect of a Mutter, because we could definitely have had that happen. Like, there is a world where Plessinger wins San Francisco and has the red plate going into San Diego.
The worst case scenario would have been Jet winning the Mutter, because then we would have been 2 rounds in, 2 completely different races, completely different conditions, and Jet mastered them both, and we're just like, okay.
Are you shocked at all that he never really looked good in it? Like, not in qualifying, not during the heat, not during the main either. Like, we never saw like a good version of Mud Jet Lawrence, I feel like.
Yes, I'm surprised, because his style is so picture perfect, which should work in these conditions. Balance is on point, standing up all of the time, blah, blah, blah. European experience, add that in as well. I think there's some correlation between riding in the sand and riding in the mud. So I am surprised, but I don't know. He just didn't look confident at any point. Every single time I saw him on TV or in person, he was hesitant and not committing to a rut or a line or the track, and that's ultimately what you have to do in the mud. It's all about commitment.
Now, on the flip side of the frustration with mud a little bit is the 250 class is now like very specifically a handful of guys that can win it, because I feel like with Joe DNF, another bad race for Thrasher, like we're at the point now where those guys, we almost can't factor them in, especially with only a 9-round series. So it kind of ruined that championship a little bit for some of those guys. Like, we have a good title fight, but it did take those guys out of it, I feel.
I never had Thrasher in the title conversation before this, so that's irrelevant to me.
But he was a player. Like,
I don't think he was a player when he was laying on the ground at Anaheim 1 scoring 0 points.
Anyway, continue.
We had like the GTA wasted music at that point. And Shimoda, controversial, and I'm not the Shimoda hater. But
the realist, not the hater.
Okay, that's not me, but I don't rate Shimoda that highly, so I actually had Kitchen and RJ above him anyway. Smith has become a bit of a revelation, but yeah, I'm not that fussed.
So you had Jordan like on par with Shimoda?
No. Heading into the season, I had Shimoda above him.
Okay.
That's the only change.
Yeah. So Mutters, I liked it. Thumbs up for me. Early in the season, the better for me as well. I hope we don't have another Mutter from here.
Okay.
Let's get into another topic here. This second topic that we have on the docket today is one that you're bringing to the table tonight. And I'm kind of curious your take on this a little bit, because I do agree with the sentiment of it, but I'm curious like what your exact take is with this. And it's that Phil Nicoletti, who got 4th in the main event, almost got on the podium, would not be getting the airtime that he is without Pulp. And I'm assuming this comes from the SMX LCQ. He gets interviewed before the main when his bike doesn't start last week. He gets interviewed when he gets 4th. He's not even on the podium. Like, I'm assuming that's why you're saying this?
Well, first of all, you must have not heard. This was actually raised by Steve Mathis in the press box.
Okay.
He spun around on his little chair and said these exact words.
Yes.
So I'm bringing that to this show.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about it. Part 2, I feel strongly about. Part 1, which we're on right now,
Yep.
I think it's 50-50. I think there is a certain level of truth to it, but at the end of the day, Phil is still a racer, and if you finish 4th, McElrath got interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that still would have happened,
Yeah.
but maybe they're more inclined to go, let's interview that guy because they know the personality that's there.
Yeah. Like if, gosh, I don't want to like throw in, but I feel like you're right because Phil and McElrath, the type of people that they are, and the fact that I feel like
are you saying that Phil and McElrath are the same type of person?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying the personalities that they are.
Oh, okay.
Maybe McElrath a little bit more because this is his best ever 450 result is why he got an interview. But definitely Phil, I feel like, is because they leaned into the personality. They're like, we have to hear what Phil's reaction is to just missing out on the podium, right? Or do you feel that that's like them just thinking we need to get Phil at all costs?
No, they're just like, he just missed out on a podium. It's
right.
a worthy interview. And
So
they're very good now at like following stories. So I'd imagine the fact that he didn't start last week's main event was enough of a story where they were like, we need to kind of show the cherry on top of this cake for the viewer.
I will say that I feel that, and I mean, because Phil didn't start the main at A1, he definitely got more TV time. But I feel like so far between Phil and Garrett, there's way more like Phil talk. Like Garrett is probably going to have the better season in 250 West for FXR Club MX Yamaha, but I don't feel like I'm hearing much of like this buzz around Garrett, but there's all this like, oh, how's Phil doing? What's Phil doing today kind of talk. And it's not just like from us, like on TV and Twitter and like everyone like that. Like you're saying, I feel like the reaction to Phil is what's going on with Phil.
Okay, yeah, in that case, that's because of Pulp and Steve.
So that's where you're saying, or that's what Steve, I guess, was saying in the press box, is that he thinks the interaction, I guess, of fans and everyone being interested in Phil is because of the Pulp relationship.
Yes, but what I don't like, and this isn't TV, this is part 2, this is separate.
Part 2, okay.
There are some members of the media, a lot of members of the media, that have clamoured towards this Phil personality, funny, blah, 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 and are kind of trying to piggyback off of Steve's jokes and relationship and make it their own to get into the cool club. And it's ridiculous. What are we doing as media? Like, I've seen it firsthand as well, because you could say that the Steve and Phil situation was very similar to the Lewis and Sewer situation.
Yeah.
And when I left MXGP, it took 2 rounds before another media person went up to Sewer and went, do you want to do Saturdays with Sewer with me? And it's like, you've got to think for yourself. If you're in the media, you can't go, oh, look, Kellen has just done a great interview with... Give me a name.
Jalik Swole.
Jalik Swole.
I don't know, you
give me another name. Kellen just made Jalik Swole sound really funny and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do that today because I want some of that. Yeah. You've got, as a media person, you've got to work hard to find the personalities yourself. Now, I interview Phil, but I don't go into it because I'm like, oh, he's going to be funny. I try, like, and obviously every interview with Phil is quite funny because he is just a funny person.
You go into that knowing it's going to be funny.
Yes.
You can't say that.
Yes, but some members of the media lean into it and try and make it so that they are, oh, I'm also Phil's buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, where's Phil?
Are you coming at like us?
No,
like,
I don't know who I'm coming at.
Okay, but like Racer X, like we have Phil write a column for us every week.
No, because I say Pulp, but actually technically Phil belongs to Weege and Steve.
Yeah.
So... Therefore, almost he belongs to Racer X and Pulp.
Maybe more Weege?
I would say so. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess because they like live closer.
But outside of Racer X and Pulp, like, yes, interview Phil and everything, but don't try and like basically rehash a Pulp interview to bring the humor over to your site. Find another rider to make your own.
I don't know that I
really?
fully agree with that. I mean, I mean. Everybody that interviews Phil is, of course, going to have like a Phil-esque interview. It's just there's going to be F-bombs and it's just going to roll off the tongue with hilarity because he's going to have so many different ways of saying this sucks or I didn't do that or I'm not tripling in here or whatever.
Okay.
Like, we know that that's going to happen.
Okay. Better explaining my gripe at this. Steve has a type of relationship with Phil where he can say to Phil, "You suck,"
Yes.
and Phil will take it. I don't feel like any of the rest of us have that relationship with Phil. I feel like we could say
I
it.
don't do that. Do
No,
you?
neither do I. But
Yeah.
I've seen other members of the media try to do that to basically copy Steve's what's the saying?
Cadence?
Yes,
yeah.
with Phil.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I maybe don't listen to all the other members of the media enough to know that that's exactly happening, but I don't feel like it's that. It's just that's how you're going to get it with Phil. Like every interview like that is going to be like that.
And I interviewed Phil on the press day in San Francisco, and it was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation beforehand, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation after the fact.
Yeah.
But I just tried to be me and not follow this path set by Steve and Phil.
I don't know. I feel like on the flip side of that, if you look at Swap and A-Ray, for example, because they're tight, like their interactions are way different than the interviews that we get from A-Ray. Not in a sense that A-Ray is a different person. He still gives like similar answers, but the banter that they have is different. And I think that that's what you're trying to say that Steve has with Phil. So I feel like they still find their guys. Like if you're Swap, I'm trying to think of who like Josh Moseman. Josh Moseman has like rapport with everybody.
I think he's got a good relationship with Michael Moseman.
Probably. He's pretty tight there. Maybe some news with Michael clamoring around a little bit too.
He's on a star bike.
Yes. But I don't know. I feel like every member of the media has kind of their guys.
Okay, perfect example of this. Who started the A-Ray sketchy joke?
That was... I mean, yes, I guess you could say.
And how
Steve built that up a little bit, but that's because like A-Ray himself was going around telling everybody.
But did you not eventually get to a point where you went on Twitter and basically every media person was making A-Ray sketchy jokes?
Yeah, I get. Again, I just think that's the personality of the writer coming out in all these interviews that every media member does with him. Though.
Maybe I'm an idiot. Cue YouTube comments, but but I try to. I overthink that stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to be seen to be copying anyone, so I'm purposely gonna try and make an effort to not follow that path and make my own path, because I don't want someone at home to go, oh, Lewis is just grabbing the low-hanging fruit that is already set by Steve, Weege, or anyone else.
Yeah, okay. I get where you're coming from. I think I would maybe disagree that other media sites, I don't
even know who I'm talking about specifically, but I just see it.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
It's just an air of it.
Yes. All right, let's move on. We hit the end of our time there and move on to our third topic of the day. This is a non-moto topic, and this is a topic that I am bringing this week. You brought both non-moto topics last week, right? So I am bringing both non-moto topics.
Yeah, you can jump in front of a bus. By the way, just like to say, the gift giving, I had 99% overwhelming positive feedback. And I, like Moses, parted the water so that these people could be heard and live their lives no longer in fear.
Did you or did you not receive a free donut in the press box from Steve Mathis?
Yes.
And so he gave you a gift and you enjoyed it?
Yeah, but it was like a low maintenance gift.
Oh, yeah, here we go. You can do low maintenance gifts with other people too. You don't have to go like all out and get a big gift.
Nope, because people have expectations, Kellen.
Oh, whatever.
People are horrible. People are idiots.
You're just dragging yourself back to this conversation from last week.
Okay.
Let's talk about this topic this week. It is a topic that I feel like has happened to me for like the last year of my life, and I don't know if it's because like I'm in my 30s now, so I'm getting grumpier or something like that.
Are you in your 30s?
I am in my 30s. Yeah.
I thought you were younger than me.
No.
Okay.
I have a child.
Okay.
I have a wife.
Moving
I don't
on.
know, like,
Okay.
Anyway.
Are you in your 40s?
No.
Okay. Just wanted some clarity.
I think people suck at planning now. I don't know what happened, but like I feel like I'm pulling teeth out sometimes to get people to like text me back or to get like honest answers about like what are you going to be doing this weekend, or can we do this or whatever. And I'm not trying to throw anyone specifically under the bus.
Give us a name.
I just feel like in general this is happening now. Okay, I'll give you a name because he listens to the podcast because he made this podcast for us. I feel like when I text Steve and I try to like say like, hey, I'll be here at this time, give an ETA, an update or something like that, I almost feel like he's annoyed that I'm doing that. So I stopped doing that. And I feel like it's totally awkward now if like I show up to his house for like a pulp show because I'm like, hey, I'm here. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So like, I hate that. I try to be as on top of like telling people this is where I'm going to be. This is how, where I'm planning on staying or whatever, which I know you are also kind of like that. Like you like planning ahead. And I feel like I bother people with letting them know my plans and trying to also get their plans out of them. Feels like I'm bothering them.
First of all, ballsy of you to come at Steve.
I'm not coming at Steve.
You came at Steve.
Individually, there's not really any one person that I'm annoyed at about this. I just use Steve as like a slight example here. Okay. It's the collective whole that I feel like no one can really like lay out any sort of foundation of a plan. Like if we're trying to go do dinner together, I feel like you have to like literally call people and say, this is when we're going to dinner at this exact time and we'll see you there. Like that's the only way you get a plan done anymore. If you try to like group text somebody and say, hey, why don't we meet here? It turns into, I don't like that place. He doesn't want to go there. I have this friend with me, blah, 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 blah. Like I don't know what happened, but I feel like people start complaining.
Okay, first of all, chink for me in your eyes, because earlier you messaged me saying, can we do this podcast tonight? I immediately replied and said, give me 5 minutes. And then within the 5-minute window, I replied and said, yes, 8 o'clock. And when did I arrive? 8 exactly.
I know, you are great. I am giving you credit.
Thank you.
I'm giving you credit.
Thank you, Kellen, yes.
You and I are the same mindset. We like to plan. Like for the whole season, we like to have like our flights ready and booked, and we know what races we're going to and all this stuff like that. I don't feel like there's that many people in the industry that are like that.
First of all, thank you for acknowledging that I am great. It's hard to be this great, but I try my best. Second of all, yes, it's such a simple part of being human to just say, oh, Kellen, you want to do this with me? Okay, 4 p.m. on Wednesday works, and then, at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, I've got to do this, which means I can't do that because I've already got this plan. Very, very simple. Not hard for the human, you would think, but no, very hard for humans because for some reason, it's respect. That's what it comes down to, Kellen.
Yeah,
it's respect. And when people do that, I guess I'm coming at it from a reverse because you're coming at it from you trying to plan. I'm coming at it from if you make a commitment with me, you better stick to it or give me apt notice that you're not going to make it for X reason.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, that's just a respect thing. You clearly think for my time is not worth shit.
Yes.
So at that point, we've got an issue.
Yeah.
I'm very paranoid about pissing people off in that way because I know how much it pisses me off. Mm-hmm. So I really make an effort to not piss people off. And if I make a commitment, I commit. And if I'm slightly uncertain, I don't commit. I'm like, even if people nag me, I'm like, I can't commit right now. Probably okay, but, give me a day to figure it out. Such a simple part of the human experience. And just think, if every human became as good as this right now, no, that wasn't English. Me fail English? That's impossible. If every human were to get better at this, we would have flying cars, flying pigs, aliens would be down. Maybe the Earth would explode because we'd have completed the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, we're still trying to make it to X place on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the best one that I've experienced since being in America is, traffic's bad. Well, I'm not even American, and I figured out when the traffic's bad and how to work around that.
Yes. Yeah.
So, not that hard.
That's always my response to people that say, I hate California. It's like, you just have to plan better. If you plan when the traffic will be and how to take a route that avoids it or go early enough that you're not in it or whatever it is, it's just a planning situation.
Yep. For instance, the Honda intro preseason was in
Torrance.
Which
over there from where we are.
Which is far from where we are and as far as I know, very bad for traffic.
Yes.
Started at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in rush hour. So I went down there at 1 p.m. and just sat in a restaurant and worked because I knew enough with my little brain, which is really hard, to understand the way that life is and that I had a commitment and that I had to be there. Yeah. Not hard.
So I will say, I'm not perfect at this either. I also sometimes suck at being good about this. And the most recent example I can come to with this is I talked to Darkside last week and we sort of agreed that I would do the Moto X pod with him, not the Pony pod, Moto X pod, and never really gave a clear answer. And then he texted me this week and was like, "Oh, I hear that you can't do it." And
he heard that from me.
Yeah, so that was like my bad. Like I should have clarified with him that like I was not going to be available for the full duration. Like I could come for a little bit of it, and he wants me there for the full time. So that was a mix up. That was also on me. I'm not saying I'm perfect.
But you said you didn't commit.
No, I mean, I think I said like I'd love to do it or something like that, which maybe in his mind meant that I committed.
Well, then he needs to get better at understanding the semantics.
Either way, point being, I should have been more clear about where my time frame like lied in that situation.
Honestly, I'm just so tired of people not doing or being able to do the simple things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so tired of the human race. Just the simple things, planning, and others. I can't think of another example right now. But there, maybe just that. But, like, it's not hard. It's really, really easy, in fact.
I think so.
And really, you can't do that, of all things?
I know.
And I realise that some people just are very aloof, but figure it out. Like, it's just tiring. It's exhausting.
It is. It's just communication at the end of the day. And like you said, it's respect. Just communicate. All you have to do is like text. We live in an information world where you can text other people within seconds.
And I saw a meme about that that said, if you don't get a reply to a text in 2 hours, you are being ignored, because with everyone with their phone and their watches, they have seen there is no way that someone has not checked their phone, laptop, watch within 2 hours.
Exactly.
And I actually say that to people now. Oh, I didn't get your message. I'm like, I send them the meme. I've got the meme on my phone. I just
you know who does that too is Steve. Steve, after like an hour, will be like, okay, cool. Like, I'll just like, whatever, jump off a bridge, I guess, because you don't respond to me. He does that all the time.
What? He
if
gets
you don't
angry.
text, if you don't text him back within like an hour, he's like, cool, thanks.
Yeah, I'm not that forward though. Like, I think it, but I don't actually send a text saying like, nice one.
It is funny though. All right, want to remind you guys that this show is brought to you by EVS Sports. Over the past 39 years, EVS Sports has established themselves as the leaders in innovation and technology when it comes to designing protection gear for today's motocross racers. Athletes like RJ Hampshire, Kyle Chisholm, Freddie Noren, Axel Hodges, and Charles Estrada all wear EVS when they race, ride, or whatever Travis decides to do that day. Check out evs-sports.com to gear up like the pros and use the code LVK30 to save on anything from knee protection to shoulder braces. All right, we are going to rehash a quick topic from last week. We're not going to get into this too deep.
Wow.
Your brother is here.
Mm-hmm.
Last week you told me he doesn't have a name, but he does.
He does.
And he is here. He's sitting in the studio, and you are making him pay rent.
He's not paid, though, because of you people.
Mm-hmm.
He read the comments. He listened to the podcast. So now he's got a bit of a spring in his step, bit of confidence about him. And before we get into this, actually, no, I'll reply after.
Okay.
Just
well,
go.
If you weren't with us last week, Lewis is making his brother pay rent. A lot of people are outraged by it. The reaction on Twitter has been astounding.
Some people were not outraged and sided with me.
Yeah. Mostly were.
Yes.
Anyway. And we have a special guest reaction. He is known for being cheap. He's also known for being the voice of Pro Motocross and now Monster Energy AMA Supercross. Here's Jason Weigandt reacting to Lewis Phillips making his brother pay rent.
Hi, Lewis V. Kellen. Jason Weigandt here. So I was driving to the grocery store with my daughter. We listened to this podcast. Let me actually get her reaction to this, because she has a brother. What were you thinking when you heard this? She's 13, by the way.
Is this person human?
Well, he says he's a 10 out of 10 human, but I think that's terrible. So when you're older and your brother's on a road trip, if he happens to be visiting where you are, will you charge him rent?
Definitely not.
Really? And you don't even like your brother, right?
Yeah.
But you still wouldn't charge him rent?
Yeah.
Even though he's annoying?
Yeah.
And you don't even like him?
Yeah.
Okay, and he would love to have you come over because you're the older sibling and he's all up on you, so you know he's not going to charge you rent. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think it's settled. I just use my kids to ask how it would be for them as siblings, and she thinks that's appalling. And I have to agree, because if you really think about it, all we're trying to do is raise good people that do the right thing in the future, and you have to, teach them right now. So in the case of my daughter, when she's older and she grows up and she gets a job, and a lot of kids these days, they don't actually move out after a while, and they end up coming back to the parents' house, and they just become freeloaders, now that I think about it. And then they just think, because I used to stay in this room, or I used to be able to do this when I was a kid, that I can still do this for free. But let me tell you something, Lily. If you come back here in your mid-20s after you graduate college and you don't pay rent, you're out of here, okay? Do you understand how that works? You will be paying rent if you're in here as an adult because you'd have to pay rent anywhere else that you go. You'd have to pay rent if it was a hotel, if it was a vacation, if it was a house, if it was a apartment. Things cost money. Just like boxes of chocolates, things cost money. Lewis is right. Lewis is right. You have to raise people right. You can't give them handouts. You can't give them free rent. Lewis is right. I'm trying to raise people right here, you freeloaders.
But it's not like his brother is coming to live with him.
He has to learn the right way, and you have to learn the right way. Stop freeloading. What are you eating right now?
Chocolate?
Who paid for that?
You?
Exactly.
That was emotional.
That is Jason Weigandt reacting.
Honestly, a minute in, I was sweating because that was not going well for me. And then the last 30 seconds really came around.
The tide turned in your favor. Jason Weigandt agrees with you. After not agreeing with you kind of at the start. But
it was rough to start with. I thought he wanted to kill me.
And he turned it around. So what say you to his reaction?
I need to lie down because
you want to take a victory lap? Or?
That was 2 minutes of... Well, first of all, I spoke to Phil about this in San Francisco. He also backed me. So Lewis, Phil, and Weege, quite a...
Team cheap.
I've got an NBC Sports personality and a rider who almost podiumed a Supercross. So we're doing quite an established group over here.
Oh, boy.
Second of all, think about it this way. Who knows? If I didn't take the money off of him, who knows where that money would go? Maybe he'd buy drugs. Maybe he'd end up on the streets. So in theory, what I've done is kept another kid off the streets. And you know what, Kellen? If that's a crime, find me guilty.
Okay.
But I would do it again to keep another person away from drugs and the streets.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sticking to the 7 minutes of time that we had was our debate time, so I'm not going to rehash this with you.
Well, you can't rehash that. What, are you going to tell me that I should put people on the streets with drugs?
I'm not saying anything. We're letting the public decide from here. Let's get back into our show a little bit. And news segment this week. Race Tech is going to bring us the fan question / topic of the week. Shout out to Race Tech. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, for 40 years, Race Tech has been supplying the motorcycle industry with high-quality suspension components made right here in the USA. From modern to vintage, Race Tech is your go-to source for suspension performance. And our Twitter question of the week, we asked some people on Twitter to give us a topic to discuss. So at LAX Defense Coach, which I've been told is lacrosse defense coach, says, with Prado expected to leave MXGP, does this start a, quote, talent drain with more upper-end riders in the pipeline leaving for America, or do they stay and aspire to be elite in just MXGP? Lewis, you have the floor.
Oh, do I? Okay, thank you for giving me the floor. Does this start a talent drain? Well, we know Prado is coming, let's be honest. The Coonans are coming. Kai de Wolf wants to come. I don't know if he's going to get a chance, but he really wants to. Anyone I feel like that's it as far as...
Does Benestan still want to come?
Yes.
Kinda.
I heard that it was in his Yamaha contract.
I thought like there was a star thing he could come line
If he
up
won the world title, then there was some sort of clause that sent him to America. Or anyway, the problem isn't Prado and the Coonans leaving as an isolated situation. The problem is that Prado will leave at the same time or a year before Hurlings will retire, Fevra will probably retire,
right.
Sewer's older now, Geyser isn't old, he's getting older, like Geyser won't be around for another 4 or 5 years. Also, remind me of that because I've got something to say on that, Ari, last week to reply to someone. Okay. So remind me of that, age. Just say age and I'll remember. So the problem is, MXGP is essentially going to lose all of their personalities and stars in the space of 2 years. And then flying the flag will be Geyser, who isn't the greatest personality in the world. Renault, same. Gertz, you've got a 10 out of 10 personality.
Yeah, he's great.
As he will carry the sport on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But he can't do it alone. You can't give that, although he oozes personality and charisma and spark, you can't put a task like that on him. So yeah, if that's where we're heading with MXGP, Geyser, Gertz, Renault, I feel like I'm missing someone.
Fernandez, I guess, could be in the mix. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. essentially MXGP will lose its star power, and that is a problem. And I've long said that MXGP needs to sort of fix up and get on the social media game to promote Renault, Geyser, Fernandez, and all these people to show their personalities, build a fan base. Because the biggest problem that I had in MXGP is that through the numbers and through the reaction, I figured out that there were really only 5 riders that the fans cared about and wanted to hear from. And there were a lot of riders who really fans were passive towards. They'd check the results and that's it. They don't really want to hear from. And that's a bigger issue that not one man can fix. It needs to start at the top with MXGP. They need to do a better job of promoting the riders as individuals, showing their personalities. Sewer and Fernandez got into it big time in Indonesia, and there was not really much done with it by MXGP. Like, that could have been a real gripping thing to get people to tune in for the following round. So MXGP does drop the ball in that respect. They do a lot of great things, but I feel like the promotion and social media side is their biggest weakness. They've kind of been left behind, as like Supercross does a really good job of that nowadays. So that's where MXGP is going to face an issue. A lot of people have said to me that they believe that MXGP is heading for a period similar to like, I can't remember the example that people use. I think they say like mid-2000s, where there weren't a lot of Everts, Pichon, Smets, Ramon, not a lot of personalities that people were really into. Like, I've long said it, and I'm going to get shot for this. Hurlings really carries MXGP on his shoulders. Between Hurlings and Sewer, you have 2 massive personalities, real characters that fans can cheer for, and in Hurlings' case, hate. But to be a top rider, you need to have personalities that people love or hate. That's kind of the driving force behind this. You can't just have a personality that everyone loves, because then that if everyone feels the same way, you're kind of back to being a passive response.
Okay. Can I talk now? Because you just talked for like 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, Kellen.
No, go ahead. So my rebuttal to this would be, this happens like every decade, roughly. We had, if you go back to the 2000s, we had Villemin and Reed, Pichon, Albertine, all those guys in more or less the prime of their careers. Villemin a little early. They came to the U.S. Excuse me. Tortelli too, a little bit.
Are you emotional?
No, I just am getting choked up about this. Talking about GPs.
I know it's hard, but you can do it.
2010s area, we had Roxon and Muscan and Porcel a little bit before that, and then Townley, I guess, maybe a little bit before that. All when they're on the rise, coming to a level where they could compete in MXGP, leave for the US. Now we're about to have the exact same thing happen again. And what happened when all those guys left? Some guy became the superstar. Everts was already really good, but he became the superstar of the series when all Albertine and everyone left, and Everts won a bunch of races. And then you had no Roxon or Muscan or Porcel to challenge Cairoli, and he wins a ton of races and a ton of world titles. And the talent that he had on the track was great, but it was not Roxon or Muscan. Like, those guys certainly would have taken it to Cairoli, I think, a little bit more than like Dassault and Paulin, right?
Yes.
So now, I feel like it's happening all over again. We're losing a lot of this young core, and what are we going to be left with? Like Geertz and Adamo and Everts to...
Well, Renault.
Well, in Renault, because he's still young. So those guys to be the flagship carriers, and someone of that group will become the next superstar of MXGP, right?
I don't know if there's a superstar quality there. I mean, Everts is actually... I will say this. Everts has got a really good personality. Yeah. Like, he's quite...
But I mean, in terms of like that dominant winning form that we saw from Everts, and then we saw from Cairoli, and then we're having all this young core talent leave from MXGP again, I think that just sets us up for another rehash of the same thing, right?
And you can have the dominance, but nowadays, if the dominance doesn't come with personality, people leave, as in fans. Look, get ready, Lewis, about to talk about another sport. Look at Max Verstappen. He wins everything. He's not the most personable, as far as I can tell.
Well, he's personable enough to be hated.
But he still comes out with little quips and Hurlings-esque comments that drive discussion.
Right.
If you don't have that, everyone will just tune out and just check the results. Oh, so-and-so won again. Sweet. Move on.
Yeah, I guess.
But also, that's where, like, that's where we as a sport need to. And if I'm looking at the American side, Supercross do a phenomenal job of social media, promotion, and all of that. They do great. So they're out of this conversation. Well done. Take a hard-earned break. You're out. The teams, did you see earlier? So I don't really know F1 or follow it. I saw that McLaren posted a video about their car launch.
Yeah.
I don't know the technology. I don't really care. This video, which was 30 seconds, genuinely got me hyped for their car launch, which I don't really care about. Meanwhile, our teams are posting terrible stuff.
Well,
and it's not hard. It doesn't even cost money. Everyone just needs to think differently. We almost need an education.
Well, do you like that Solitaire does what they do? They're like edgy on Twitter, right? And so that's kind of what you're asking for a little bit.
Yes,
getting
but
the teams involved that
I
way.
guess that I would say that it needs to be a bit more. It could be used better. Like they've got the audience now, so I feel like they could now use that audience better rather than kind of pandering to the same jokes over and over.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you. I think social media could be better, but you're very passionate about the social media.
I really
side of
am.
sport. Yeah, I think you need to become like the social media captain.
I really want like a team. I would do it for free. I'd really like to take a team on as like a project just to see what you could do.
Be careful what you do for free.
If you're listening to this, go to McLaren's Twitter. And it's all about
seriously, go to any F1 teams.
No, but find this video I'm talking about specifically. And it was all about doing whatever it takes to reach the top. And it was like stuff about, they had like headlines saying McLaren are losers, blah, blah, blah. And as I was watching it, I was like, you could follow that same narrative with any, like Tomac, you could follow that narrative coming back from injury. Sexton, you could use that narrative from the response to him making mistakes and not deserving the championship. Rubbish. Like, you could use that in so many instances, but you've just got to have someone who's thinking that way.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think teams definitely could be better on social media. 1,000%.
I mean,
I'm with you.
You name me a team that's doing something reasonably well.
Well, I like Solitaire.
Okay, name me another team.
Okay, we're way over time though, so we can rehash this later.
I could do an hour on social media in the sport.
You really could. You're very passionate about it.
Honestly, it really angers me.
I know. You're
also quite impressive that we went from Prado to Team Solitaire in one debate.
Very true, very true. But it got there in a roundabout way. Let's get back into our topics here. We got two more to go over. We're going to end on moto and we're going to go off moto for this one. Again, another topic that irks me to my core, and we both travel a lot. So I feel like you've probably seen this and maybe you have an opinion on this or not. Why do people talk on the phone in the bathroom of an airport? And it's, you and I both know that we travel with a lot of people that are like business people too. Like you get on a plane and there's people in like slacks and like a button-up t-shirt or whatever because they're going to a meeting or something like that. Especially if we fly on like a Thursday where there's always like business people getting on planes. So airports are full of people doing business. If you are a person on the phone doing business with CEO of Downtown Company LLC or whatever, and you hear in the background with the guy that you're on the phone with, I would hang up immediately if I'm the CEO. Like, that is so annoying that you would be doing that. And it's so disrespectful to these people that are just trying to go to the bathroom and you're just in there like, oh yeah, this quarter we didn't do great, so we're going to try to fix that for next year. It's very annoying. I don't like it at all.
Why are you hanging out in bathrooms?
I'm not. I'm literally just going in because I need to go to the bathroom after a flight, and there's just people in there with their AirPods in or whatever, just yelling into the phone.
There's no funny business with you in these bathrooms, is there?
No, Lewis.
Okay. There's no circles cut in the stalls.
No circles.
Okay, just didn't want to get involved in a debate that I don't want to be a part of.
No.
Because what you do in airport bathrooms is your business, and I think it's best if it's kept that way. But regarding other people's business, I've never heard someone on the phone.
Really?
No. I have no idea what you're talking about.
You've never heard this?
No.
Oh my God, dude, I feel like I hear it every week. And like,
well, maybe it's an American thing, because I guess I've spent most of my time hanging out in Indonesian airports where people are walking around barefoot and standing basically on your toes.
Yeah, that's a different world, though. Like, you're
it's a very... I shouldn't say that. I almost topped last week there.
Yeah,
Jeez,
chill out.
wow.
I have heard people in the stalls, and like I don't like look underneath and see if they're sitting on the toilet or whatever.
You don't look through the holes cut in the
No,
snow.
I don't,
Okay,
I
good.
don't.
Good.
But I hear them coming from the general direction of the stalls, and they're just talking about quarterly numbers or whatever it is that they're talking about. It's almost always business related, which means to me that they're on a call that they need to be on, right? And they're like, oh, I need to also go to the bathroom before I get on this plane. So I get it, like that you are trying to knock out all your stones with one throw here a little bit, but I hate when people talk to me on the phone if they go to the bathroom. I would be so mad if someone did that to me. And I'm mad when I'm hearing it in the airport.
I don't know why I've never heard this.
Huh. I don't know.
Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Would that bother you? You roll into a stall at the airport and you're just like, I just need to go to the bathroom real quick and wash my hands and leave. And someone is over here yelling.
No, because I'd find it quite interesting.
Right. Well, you like get involved in their conversation?
No, just like, sounds like Adam's going to be fired. Wonder,
oh my god!
And then I walk out the bathroom wondering, wonder whatever happened to Adam.
So you would try to like follow up on the
Yeah,
story.
it's like a soap opera.
Corporation's website and be like,
Yeah, it's
does
like a
Adam still
sitcom.
work there? Or?
Yeah.
Huh. No, I would definitely not do that. I would hope I would go there and see that Adam's fired and cause is talking on the phone in a bathroom stall at the airport.
I don't know if you know this, Kellen, but as you would have seen from last week's episode, I'm a very easygoing person.
Yeah.
Don't get riled up at much. Go with the flow. Bit of a hippie, if you will. And so this wouldn't really bother me because, let people do their business in more ways than one in this case.
No, it really bothers me. It also. Have you ever had that happen when you're like you get on the plane and they're still just like going to town on a call or something like that?
But America, what are we doing with?
Okay, now we lit you up.
What are we doing when we're getting on planes? We're walking on with pizza boxes. We're walking on with like a foot-long Subway. We're walking on. The guy next to me at the weekend, on the way to San Francisco, an hour flight, walked on with a carrier bag full of like 2 salads and like.
Was it JT and his
No. This man basically ate as if he was. I imagine that when he got off that flight, he was being executed, and this was his last meal. And also, this guy was bizarre because every time I was on the aisle, he was middle. Every time I like looked to my left to glance out the window, or you look around. Every time I looked to my left in his direction, obviously not directly at him because he was right alongside me. Mm-hmm. He took his headphones out and like looked at me as if I wanted to have a conversation with him. And this happened 5 times, and every time I was like, "No, settle down, not you." Matt food eater.
Not you, that guy over there.
But like in front of me, a guy walked on with a massive, large pizza box. It was an hour flight. You can survive. Like, you can survive. I have faith in you. But this only happens in America. I have flown all around the world. I only see people come on flights with substantial food in America.
We eat a lot here.
It's an hour flight.
Have you ever gone onto a plane ever though, like with a meal, like it's a 6-hour flight or something, and you're like,
I take on
like snacks.
Yeah, a bag of cookies, a sandwich.
I got on a plane one time last year. I don't remember where to or from, but Vince Freeze was like on the second row, just going to town on a bowl of ramen noodles.
I would. I
was just like,
I would lose my mind.
Vince.
No, smells.
Yeah, I guess.
Like. Only in America. I don't know why this doesn't happen elsewhere, but yeah, we need to figure that out.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the deal is with that. But, like, I've seen people buy a full meal, sit at the gate, take it on the plane, and then eat it. Just eat it at the gate.
No, I've done that too.
Oh my God.
But like you maybe run out of time or you're not hungry enough to finish it there, but you don't want to throw it out because the airport food is like $20 for like a little sandwich.
Breaking news.
You're trying to be cheap with your brother over there. I'm not throwing away a sandwich I've half eaten in an airport.
Breaking news. Man buys food. But man looks at food in the airport and goes, "Am I hungry?" Goes, no, doesn't buy food.
I like how you completely changed this topic though. The topic that I brought to the table
I don't know what you do in bathrooms, Kellen. And these bathrooms that you frequent, I've never seen someone on a phone, so I don't know what you guys are doing in your special bathrooms. I presume there's a special code word to enter these bathrooms. Maybe an app that you go on to hook up with people in these bathrooms? I don't know. But
can I ask if you were on the phone with, I don't know, Michael or Darkside or something like that, and you heard a toilet flush, you would just be like, whatever, life? Or would you be like, bro?
I would try to block it out, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the two frustrations I have with it is that, one, it's bothering me because I'm standing there listening to a conversation while I'm just using the restroom. And number two, the person on the other side of the line is, I feel like, being very disrespectful or being disrespected by the person who is just flushing a toilet in an airport.
Yeah, but maybe it's their boss and they know they have to answer and they've just caught them at a bad time.
Well, again, like I said, I feel like it's a business meeting that these people can't miss or whatever, but figure it out. I don't know.
I don't know what you're doing in these bathrooms.
Well, we're pretty much at the end of time. I'm not going to keep going over this because I'm sick of talking about it, to be honest. It
Stop
me.
bringing your food, your full meals onto the plane. Just stop.
Okay, we'll bring that up another week. All right, one more topic to talk about here. Chase Sexton wins in San Francisco, and second race with KTM, gets on the top step, has the red plate back, and Anaheim 1 was good for him. He gets on the podium with a little assistance from Cooper Webb, but all we heard all day was doesn't really like the bike. They did a feature on him Race Day Live about how he's not gelling with the bike and everything. You know, they had a big struggle early in December that they were trying to work through and stuff like that. So I felt like Anaheim 1 getting on the podium was kind of a win. Now he does win a race, and it's a mud race, but the ball is rolling in the right direction for Chase. So in your opinion, is this like this was like a must-win situation that Chase had, or is this, how big is this win to you for him to get it done?
You could tell how big it was in the videos of him riding to the podium. I would say that his energy matched like almost winning the championship last year.
Yeah.
And knowing how tough the struggles were in December and all of that stuff, I highly doubt that he expected to be this good this early. He's leading the championship by 7 points. We've not had a lead that big since 2018. We've not had a lead that bigger than that since 2015. So he's in a great position.
Lewis.
Yep. Just man of many talents. Not really. No, you've thrown me off there, Kellen.
Sorry, continue.
Like a man talking in the bathroom. I'm trying to do my business, and you've just distracted me when I was in a flow. No, I think that it was important. I think that had he gone to round 6 without winning, say we'd left California and he hadn't won yet,
exactly,
then I think maybe it would have been a bit of a shaky ground.
Right.
But I think that this win confirmed a lot of things, but actually I think even bigger was what they did in the week leading up to San Francisco. Again, knowing some ins and outs.
Yep.
They made big steps in the dry, and I would expect him to back it up, or at least back it up with a very strong showing in San Diego, because I do think they've turned a corner. So I think the emotional combination of turning a corner in a dry and then getting your first win on a KTM resulted in the explosion of emotion that we saw in San Fran.
Yeah, I 1000% agree with the sentiment that if Chase left California without a win, it was bad, in my opinion. And I think you're right. I think things are going to be better in the dry. But this win, I feel like, does a lot for his own personal confidence, regardless of how he got it. Because if you look back to last year, remember how he had that stretch where like he won Detroit, but it was because of the penalties, so he like lost points, and then he crashed in Indy, and did he crash in Daytona too or something like? There was like a stretch
Indy
of, like,
and Daytona were before Detroit.
Right. Sorry, but like there was a stretch of like 4 races in a row where he was like clearly the fastest guy and probably should have won all of them, but for whatever reason or whatever, did not really win any of them. And he was like pulling his hair out, I feel like, by that point of like, what is happening? Like, why is this not going right? Even though fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, wins heat, something happens in the main event. Like, I feel like mentally he was just like going through these frustrations and couldn't pull himself out of it. And I feel like if he left California in any sort of similar mindset to that, we're in trouble, right?
Yes. But also I think that that's a different situation because that was losing wins through his own mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas if he left California without a win and it just wasn't there, then I think maybe he would have been more accepting of it, because I think he knew or expected it to be a little bit of a slog to start the season.
I guess, but look at when outdoors this year, Jet goes 22-0. I feel like every single week that Chase was like close, but just didn't have it. Like, he was also frustrated.
I like that Chase wears his emotions on his sleeves. That's cool.
Right. No, I agree. But that's what I'm saying. I feel like you can almost see that, like, it's mentally beating him up a little bit every single time he doesn't cross the line first. And so, like, just to get it one time, just have that feeling with KTM and know, like, we can do this. Doesn't matter how we got there again. We have the red plate again. We're in control of our destiny from here. I feel like totally flips his mindset going forward already.
Yeah, because I think that, again, he didn't expect to be in this position so early. So the fact that he is actually gives him double confidence.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I knew I could win. I didn't know I could win this early. So if I can win this early, how good am I going to be in 4 weeks? So like, it's like a massive storm of confidence that's just hit him. I think that it'll be interesting to see the reaction if Jet just like smokes everyone this weekend. Because does that bring it back down to earth? Or, again, it probably depends on the ride. Because if Jet whole shots and smokes everyone, but Chase goes from 12th to 2nd, then it's still like a win in a way. But it's clear, it has set up San Diego to be very interesting from a mental battle standpoint from the top guys. Because, Chase with that situation, Jet with the rebound, Eli, is San Francisco a true indicator, or was it just a mud thing? So, like, mentally, I feel like he'll be carrying quite a burden in San Diego, because he'll be like, oh, I hope I can back that up, but I don't know.
Well, on the broadcast, they said that Star did something during the week similar to KTM, and Eli came into this weekend, like, pissed off, ready to win, like, and felt that he had it in him to win San Francisco if it was dry, and obviously almost if it was wet. So I think that similar to Chase, I feel like Star somehow turned a page. It was something to do with, like, they brought their Florida setup to Anaheim. It didn't work. And so then they did like some dry testing during the week. I think he rode Yamaha on Tuesday. So he did some like actually like dry test track testing or something like that. The Yamaha test track is what I meant, not he rode a Yamaha.
Yeah, it took me a second.
So I think, like you said, I think those guys, like, first and second for them totally turned a page for them already.
Yeah, and it was needed. Yeah. As I said at the top, if Jet had won in the mud, that would have been a massive oh no moment for everyone.
Yeah.
I think that this will spark a series of good rides for Chase. Mm-hmm. I think this sparks Chase of last year coming back.
No, I think that the results that we got in San Francisco set us up for a really good series, because I think it's pretty clear everyone thinks the Jet is the fastest and probably can win any time. So if you're Eli and your Chase or your Cooper or whatever, and you can get a handful of points on him here and there, that's a win. I feel like, right? That's what those guys are assuming.
To combine this Sexton this Sexton topic. Sorry, I just had a brain malfunction. With the one from last week about the slander. Do you want a stat?
Let's hear it.
So San Diego was Chase's 44th win. No, I'm really tired. And I said San Diego as well. San Francisco was Chase's 8th win.
Yes.
In 450s. It was his 44th start in the 450 class. It took Eli... Oh, God, I'm going to forget this now. It took Eli something like 48 to get to his 8th win. It took Webb something like 54. It took Roxon 43.
I'm just going to throw it out there because the Eli fans are going to hit you hard. Eli was coming back from double reconstructed.
No, I took out the starts.
No, I know.
And I'm not posing anything with this. I'm just giving you facts.
Just be careful.
I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was roughly that. I know that Roxon was definitely 43. Chase was 44. And then, I believe Eli was 48 and Webb was 54, but close to that.
Yeah. Is Chase going to get to 72?
Just not a single mention of that this weekend. Where was it?
Listen.
Honestly, I should have done that. I feel like everyone would have got a kick out of that if I'd asked that in the press conference.
We're going week by week here. We're at the end of time, though. My timer did not go off. I don't know why, but we are at the end of time. We have gone over an hour. So thank you guys again for tuning into the second episode of the LVK More Than Moto podcast. Lewis, thank you for stopping by and chatting a little bit with us again.
I did a good thing this week. Not a single bit of sarcasm.
No.
Because I am now literal Lewis.
Literal Lewis.
Because everyone likes to take things literally. So to the two people last week, I said something along the lines of, to use a phrase that I just made up myself, life is like a box of chocolates. Two people messaged me telling me that I did not come up with that phrase and that I'm an idiot and I am an idiot and a self-obsessed lunatic for thinking that I made that up myself. And at that point, I realised the world is not ready for sarcasm.
No.
So I was literal Lewis, and I don't think I did one sarcasm.
Bad.
Just to clarify, no, I did not make up the phrase, life is like a box of chocolates.
Life lessons from Lewis. Thank you. All right, that's episode 2 of LVK More Than Moto. Thank you to EVS Sports, Namura, and Race Tech for sponsoring the show. And we'll see you guys after San Diego with more than Moto.